Your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies today with a high near 36, tonight partly cloudy with a low around 24, and Wednesday partly sunny with a high around 45. Crooner's Supper Club invites you to check out the stylish Maggie's Lounge before or after your show. With a welcoming atmosphere, it's the perfect place to catch up with friends before or after a show. Open Wednesdays through Saturdays beginning at 4:30. Stop by for cocktails and light bites. More at croonersloungemn.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Good afternoon and good evening. It is the Matt McNeil Show coming to you live on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk and AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Howdy, hi. Good to be with you today. Matt and Patrick here in your hour. I hope you had a good one out there today. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205 is the phone number. We're going to get to what Speaker Johnson said. I'm going to get to that here in just a little bit. Patrick, how are you today, my friend?
Actually doing pretty well. Woke up to a nice coating of snow on the sidewalk.
We've been lucky here in the Twin Cities. Everything's going south of us. It sucks to be Iowa. Well, yeah. It's all going south of us here. Keep in mind, it's the holiday season indeed. So yeah, I did appreciate how everyone drove like 8 miles an hour. It's, of course, by the end of the winter, it's a Fast and Furious movie on the highways, but, okay, fine, whatever. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. So once again, this is our debut week in Chicago. Once again, Chicago, howdy. Good to be with you today. I want to share with you at the beginning of this hour why you guys actually are near and dear to my heart, and it had to do with something that happened a little more than a year ago. Now, just a little background information on me. I am, I've got 3 kids. My oldest is my son, and he is a senior at the University of Minnesota right now. And, of course, his first year was the COVID year. He started at 2020. And yeah, that was tough. That was tough. Pretty much all your classes, the first semester for sure, were all online. And it was a very different college experience than most of us who ever went to college ever had. And he got through it, and he did pretty well, as best as could be under those circumstances. He did, in one of his online classes, see a girl and became kind of smitten right away. Little did he know that apparently she saw him and was kind of smitten too. Now, I mean, to say that he's fighting out of his weight class, guys, you know what I'm talking about, man. Yeah, no, dude, man. What's the old line from Arrested Development? You gotta be careful. You gotta make sure. Yeah, don't screw that up, man. You don't screw that up. She's an absolute delight. She is an absolute delight. And due to earlier, a few years earlier, a year earlier, we ended up having to spend a lot of the holidays with her because she had a COVID outbreak at her family's house and in the Chicago area. And so she stayed up in the Twin Cities and ended up having the holidays with us, and it was really nice. And she was just so excited about taking my son down to the Chicago area and showing him all of the Chicago that she grew up with and how much the Chicago she loved. And so she took him down there for the 4th of July in 2022 in Highland Park. I was at a 4th of July parade myself. As a matter of fact, I had just seen Dean Phillips. Yes, that Dean Phillips, the guy that's running against Biden. Okay, you can do it. You want to do it. Knock yourself out. But I don't know if I don't know how it's going to go for you. But sure, you can do it. I had just seen Dean Phillips. My phone rang, and it was my son. And he says, "Dad," I said, "Yeah, there was a shooting. I want to let you know before you see it all in the media. We're okay. We got away. We're okay." Click. Now, once again, this is at a 4th of July parade. I'm like, what the F? So I immediately start scrambling, and I see the news stories start to pop up of the mass shooting at the 4th of July parade in Highland Park. And it was gut-wrenching, to say the least. You know, there's a reason why Generation Z today is tired of our crap, and they look at this because this guns everywhere, gun slaughters everywhere world that we have, which is a self-gratifying dream of the gun industry, so that nothing can ever be done. So the only thing you can say is you better buy your own gun, because we're going to lease the psychopaths with as many guns and as much ammo as they want. So that's the only option you got. And Generation Z, I have zero doubts, going to change a lot of this, probably rewrite the Second Amendment as it is. I think that will probably happen at some point. That being said, it was hard to be in this world, this modern world we have, where, and I am just like many other parents, many other family members, having a loved one who is someplace where there was reports of gunfire, reports of casualties, reports of a slaughter. And not only did my son's girlfriend's family, who were with him and stepped up and let him know he was safe, let us know he was safe, all these things, that they were there. The entire, I talked about this on the air, and the amount of outreach I got from the beautiful, beautiful people of Chicago who stepped up and said, don't worry. We, if there's anything you need from me, let me know. If your son needs anything, let me know. I can't say thank you enough. I mean, Chicago is, you're good people. And I can't, like I said, I can't say thank you enough on that, because that was hard. They're still together. Which is good. I don't know where they're going to go. They both graduate this year, so we'll have to see. But it's a good reminder that these upper Midwest values, they're pretty hard to beat. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Oh, hark. Do we have that audio from the Speaker of the House? This is Speaker Johnson. Hey, I don't want to call you a traitor to the country, you jackass, but here is a little audio clip from Speaker Johnson in regards to the January 6th insurrectionists who tried their best to overthrow the government of the United States. Something, by the way, we now know definitively was the plan, due to Liz Cheney on the Rachel Maddow, who was saying that in the days before the January 6th event, Trump's campaign's lawyers were out there selling talking points in advance to tell people how they wanted it presented as they tried to overthrow the government. We know this was the whole plan. We know the whole thing was going on. This was an attempt to overthrow a legitimate election. Speaker Johnson has been, of course, on the front of this, the tip of this idea of sharing the video from the January 6th insurrectionists. And so they're trying to share this out. Of course, once again, they cherry-picked the initial evidence, which they handed to only right-wing news outlets to basically drive a specific narrative. And now everyone wants to see the rest of it. And a lot of people have said, well, why don't you want to release the rest of it? If you release part of it, why don't you want to release the rest of it? And the reason why is that they don't want to release it is because it shows exactly who they were, what they were all about. But Speaker Johnson takes a very, very interesting approach to this.
Trust the American people to draw their own conclusions. They should not be dictated by some narrative and accept that as fact. So they can review the tapes themselves. We're going through a methodical process of releasing them as quickly as we can. As you know, we have to blur some of the faces of persons who participated in the events of that day, because we don't want them to be retaliated against and to be charged by the DOJ and to have other concerns and problems. So that's a slow process to get it done. We're working steadily on it. We've hired additional personnel to do that, and all of those tapes ultimately at the end will be out so everybody can see them and draw their own conclusion.
Yeah. What was that? Blurring them out so they can't be prosecuted, you say? House Speaker Mike Johnson said Tuesday that Republicans are blurring faces in security footage from inside the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021 to protect the rioters from prosecution. I'm going to take a quick stop here. And What do you think Mike Johnson would be like if this was footage from Minneapolis and the George Floyd riots after 2020? You think Johnson was like, you know what, before we release all this video footage, let's make sure we blot out people's faces so no one can retaliate against them? You think he'd be like that with that? No, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't. And that was not an attempt to overthrow the government of the United States. That was an implosion of society in Minneapolis after Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd at 38th and Chicago in Minneapolis. And the African-American community and the minority communities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, who have been screaming for years, this is how the Minneapolis police treats us. Finally, when there was undeniable proof, the city imploded, and that's what happened. But I don't think Mike Johnson is going to be sitting there saying, you know what, we need to make sure all those people in George Floyd stuff, we need to make sure their faces are covered up. No, he's not. And yet here he is with this. All right. We have to blur some of the faces of persons who participated in the events of that day because we don't want them to be retaliated against, to be charged by the DOJ, Johnson said at a press conference. The Department of Justice has long had access to the footage, so they know it's in there, and has used it to roughly some of the roughly 1,200 criminal charges against people linked to the riot, such saw the participants fight police and storm the Capitol. Johnson's comment is a remarkable statement of sympathy for supporters of then President Trump, who illegally entered the restricted federal building as part of a violent attack on Congress. Though prosecutors already have the video, blurring people's faces could prevent amateur investigators from sending tips to the FBI. Of course, that's what this is all about. Online sleuths have previously used social media and facial recognition software to help the government crack down on the number of suspects. Shortly after becoming Speaker in October, Johnson announced that Republicans would release thousands of hours of footage from security cameras, fulfilling a pledge he made to the far-right flank of the House GOP conference. The video has previously been available to criminal defendants and reporters by request. Johnson initially said the footage will allow people to see themselves what happened that day so that the public would not only have to rely on the interpretation of a small group of government officials as though Trump supporters had not really ransacked the building as part of an effort to undo his 2020 loss. Conspiracy theorists and some Republican lawmakers have pointed to video snippets that evidence that it was actually the Justice Department that orchestrated the riot. Several lawmakers claim the video showed a Trump supporter flashing a badge at Capitol police officers, for instance. Unfortunately, for your irrefutable proof, we should note that that was actually a vape device. He was vaping. That was the badge he showed, which for MAGA people, I have zero doubt. I have zero doubt, man. Yeah, he's vaping. He's one of us. Yeah, okay. Wait a second here. Wait a second. I thought all the Republicans were insisting this was Antifa. Why is Mike Johnson trying to blur out the Antifa faces? Oh, that's right. They pulled that one out of their caboose as well. We'll take a break. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
The Electric Fetus gift card sale is now through December 14th, both in the store and online. Buy $50 in gift cards and get a $10 bonus gift card, or buy $100 in gift cards and get a $20 bonus gift card. The Electric Fetus will also include a special January sale punch card with your order. The Electric Fetus is open 10 to 6 Tuesdays through Saturdays and 11 to 6 on Sundays. They're closed on Mondays. Find the Electric Fetus at 2000 South 4th Avenue in Minneapolis and at electricfetus.com.
Hey, it's Tom. Since 2009, All Energy Solar has been providing solar energy solutions to customers. With fully licensed electricians and installers, you can be sure that your solar installation will go smoothly. The team at All Energy Solar understands that every customer is unique. They'll take the time to survey and understand your property to find a solar solution that works for you. One of the biggest advantages of going solar is the opportunity to take advantage of the many solar incentives available. But it can often be confusing to know what you're qualified for. All Energy Solar professionals will help you find out what savings you can apply for and even help with your applications. This is especially important since many rebate programs have limited capacity and are first come, first serve. So it's important to have a professional on your side who will make sure you get every eligible rebate. Get a free no obligation assessment from All Energy Solar's commercial solar specialists by calling 800-620-3370. or visit allenergysolar.com.
Hey, it's Patrick again. 'Tis the season to be jolly, and nothing makes me feel jollier than a clean home. With the holidays right around the corner, it's time to get ready for friends and family, and there's no better way to do that than with Zero Res. If this is the first big gathering you're having this year with your friends and family during the holidays, it's a good idea to make sure Zero Res gets your home in tip-top shape for your company. Zero Res has a 4.9 rating on Google with over 17,000 reviews, and the Zero Res Gotta Love It guarantee makes it easy to get what you pay for. This month, get 3-room Zero Resified starting at just $129, and don't forget about your air ducts. Take an additional $75 off when you get your air duct Zero Res clean. Call Zero Res right now, 952-ZERO-RES, or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
With the holidays here, reserve space for your holiday gathering at the Park Tavern. No matter your get-together, whether family, friends, or coworkers, Park Tavern offers private and semi-private party spaces like their party room, the atrium, the 11th frame, and their bowling lanes, and they can accommodate any size party, large or small. They have bowling, food, and beverage packages for any budget, and their helpful staff can schedule your party for this December or into 2024. To schedule your event, go to parktavern.net. That's parktavern.net. Your new holiday tradition is made easy with help from the Park Tavern. It's the Matt McNeil Show for your Tuesday. Good to be with you today. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Back to Johnny Treason himself there, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House. Once again, I want to repeat what he said here. We have to blur some of the faces of persons who participated in the events of that day because we don't want them to be retaliated against and to be charged by the DOJ. Now, it would be one thing if he came out and he said, and by the way, he himself and others have implied strongly this wasn't Trump supporters. These were people in disguise. So once again, now we have an admission of, oh, it really was Trump supporters, and now we have to protect them. But it's not like that, the Louisiana Bayou here is sitting and making the argument that, okay, so there were people who were there who never went into the building. We don't have any evidence of them being in the building, so we're going to blur their faces because we don't want people retaliating against them. That's not what he's saying. He is saying specifically people that have committed crimes, that the Department of Justice, this is the Speaker of the House coming out and insisting that they are going to fight for people who broke the law and prevent them from being charged, anything in their power to prevent them from being charged with the crimes they committed. Wow, that is an interesting stance to take, I think, for the Speaker of the House. I mean, how is this not, basically some sort, violating, the prosecutorial neutrality of the Department of Justice, that they see someone in there who undeniably went into the Capitol, went in there and, wiped their feces all over the building. And that's about the best thing they could do. They went and violated, broke into offices, damaged equipment, wanted to hang the vice president. I mean, if you're Mike Pence, how does this sit with you? That the Speaker of the House is saying, hey, all these people that are chanting to kill you, you know what? We're going to make sure that they get a little safety and security tonight. Okay. All right. I find it to be infuriating because, for the record here, as a veteran of the U.S. Army, these people can burn in hell. Ashley Babbitt is a traitor to America. She's a traitor to America. That's all she is. She's a traitor to America. She tried to overthrow a legitimate election that the former president of the United States was having a temper tantrum about losing because he's a petulant man-child who never had decent parents to tell him, no, you can't have the candy bar. And so he grew up his entire life trying to manipulate and twist his way into getting his way, and all of a sudden he came up against an immovable force. He got his ass handed to him by Joe Biden. He lost. He lost fair and square. And hundreds of cases that have been brought to courts about trying to prove that there was fraud. They're over. They haven't gotten a freaking win. Not a single one. And almost every one of those cases between the election and January 6th, almost every one of those cases, the exact argument of the pro-Trump group was, well, I know we don't have any evidence, but give us 6 weeks in private with the voting machines and we'll find the evidence. For God's sakes, even in the one state where they were able to basically do this, out in Arizona with the cyber ninjas or whatever they were that went in there, even they came on out and said there was no evidence of fraud. And, oh, by the way, Biden actually won by a larger margin. They can't, this was a bunch of people having a temper tantrum that are just, they're 20-time losers who are desperately trying to, like I've said before, they will have no problem being on the Titanic as long as they're 10 feet higher on the deck than their enemies. If they can watch their enemies drown, then they'll gladly drown first. And that is how sad and pathetic these people are. And so they were itching for time for us to start shooting people. And God forbid if they would have actually gotten someone from the U.S. House or the Senate, and I don't care who it would have been. It could have been a Republican. They probably would have killed the guy or the woman. They probably would have. You can't look at these people as anything else than traitors to the country. And frankly, I'm kind of glad we've been prosecuting them, because the mentality is you need to treat these people as harsh as you can. I think that we have been prosecuting. We have been putting these people in jail. We have been exposing them for the frauds they are. I love how in every one of their trials, it's like at the very end when all of a sudden they know the gig's up, all of a sudden they're blubbering out I was convinced by liars of something that wasn't true. It's not my fault. Delicious. Delicious. Love it. Cry. Traitor, cry. Nope. These are horrible people, and they all should go to jail. They weren't heroes. There's been this mentality that, oh, well, if you don't prosecute them, if you don't hold them accountable, that what happens in the long run, what eventually end up happening is, you're going to only encourage this to happen. I think the DOJ has been going after these guys. And I think most people in this country are aghast by these people. But what you've got is at least 4 major news networks whose entire goal is to saying, we're not saying the election was illegitimate or that voting machines were fraudulent because we don't want to get sued again. But these people were really patriots. No, they weren't. They wiped their feces all over the building. They're not patriots. They're preschoolers. Dumb, stupid idiots who are all now terrified of being outed. But hey, don't worry. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is going to make sure that he goes out there and protects all the criminals who attacked this country, who attacked the Capitol. He's going to protect them and make sure the DOJ can't prosecute them. Proud day, America. I would make a legitimate argument that in a normal society that would have done that would be the end. 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, if the Republican speaker was so blatantly pro-overturning the government of the United States, that would have been the end, that Republicans would be in a frantic, all of them disowning the speaker, calling for an immediate removal, all these things. Nope, they're not going to do a damn thing. Because the crazy people have taken over the asylum in regards to the Republican Party. That's who they are. They're not so crazy, and there is no fixing them. And so Johnson is doing this because he wants to let that most far-right MAGA side know we still got you. I guarantee you when it gets to the general election sometime this summer, he'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't go on out there and try to hide people that committed crimes. Bull crap. Speaker Johnson, you're a traitor to this country. You are a traitor to America, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Absolutely. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Now at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, the new Lopi hybrid wood stoves.
Lopi wood-burning stoves in sizes and designs to fit your heating need and style choice. They not only feature a big, beautiful fire viewing area, they heat so efficiently that they qualify for the 30% tax credit. With this federal tax credit, you can earn $2,000 when you install efficient wood heating.
Lopi advances the technology of wood burning. EPA certified for clean burning, these new hybrids include refined catalytic combustor design. They burn not only cleaner, but longer and more efficiently. Lopi brings heating with wood into the 21st century.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has been selling wood-burning products since 1977. We want to make fire work for you. Let us show you how Lopi wood-burning stoves can work in your home.
Get in touch with the folks at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. They are the chimney and insulation experts. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood, gas, and electric units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis.
Bet you didn't know that 2,300 people in Minnesota are currently waiting for a life-saving transplant. Check your driver's license to see if you're a registered donor. It's an easy way to help others. One donor can save and heal more than 75 lives. Ready to register and don't know how? Check the box on your ID at the DMV or skip the lines and register online today at life-source.org. That's life-source.org. Sponsored by LifeSource, this station, and the Minnesota Broadcasters Association.
Hey, Minnesota, it's Brad Friedman, host of the Bradcast. You're listening to AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. Even though Auto Technical is a small nonprofit, we have helped more families with transportation than any organization in Minnesota. Since '94, we have reconditioned donated vehicles so they have a higher tax benefit. Call Richard at 612-919-5526, 612-919-5526, or autotech.org.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067, or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies today with a high near 36. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 24. And Wednesday, partly sunny with a high around 45. Crooner Supper Club invites you to check out the stylish Maggie's Lounge before or after your show. With a welcoming atmosphere, it's the perfect place to catch up with friends before or after a show. Open Wednesdays through Saturdays beginning at 4:30. Stop by for cocktails and light bites. More at croonersloungemn.com.
It is the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Good to be with you. Matt McNeil here. Reminder, tomorrow, Cliff Schechter is going to join us in the hour to talk about some national politics. And always enjoy talking to Cliff as well. And also, by the way, there's plenty of ways for you to get in touch with me via the social media pages. You can go to Facebook. It's Progressive Citizen X, Matt McNeil Show. You can find me there. On Blue Sky, Matt McNeil Show. On Mastodon, Matt McNeil Show. On Threads, Matt McNeil Show. And on Twitter, it's Matt McNeil Show. Although I don't know how much longer I'm going to be on Twitter. I got to be honest with you. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be on there. It's, yeah. It's sad. I've said if I get up to 1,000 followers, because I got 4,000 followers on Twitter. If I get 1,000 followers combined on Threads, Mastodon, and Blue Sky, that's going to be done. Threads is doing its job. Gosh, I don't know what's going on with Threads, but all of a sudden out of the blue, I'm really picking up followers on Threads, which I'm cool with. So by all means, go follow me there. And yeah, I'll dump the Twitter. But you can find me there for the time being. All right? All right. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Should mention, speaking of January 6th, as a guy who is in the military, there's a thing you can figure out pretty quickly when you go into the military, that if you ever get into a combat zone, you can always tell the guys that are going to wet themselves when the things get rough. Let me introduce you to Representative Paul Gozer, the Gozar the Gazarian, who of course was the enemy of Ghostbusters, and now a sitting House rep for Arizona. Funny how that works. I think we should actually go with Gozar the Gazarian. I think that he might be a little bit more palatable, more moderate. Anyway, Gozar was a name to the Republican. It was among the Republicans who talked big on January 6th, but behind the closed doors, he was visibly afraid. This is according to Liz Cheney's new book. Spill more. In Oath and Honor, former Representative Cheney, Republican from Wyoming, describes Gozar as standing at the podium speaking when White House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was rushed out of the chamber. Quickly, others in the House leadership were escorted out as well. Gozar was left standing at the podium dumbstruck. Well, that could have been before people were being left out. I mean, the guy is a freaking moron. I'm serious. I'm surprised he doesn't have a drool cup. Once we conquer the Hill, Donald Trump is returning to be president, Gozar had said earlier to a cheering crowd. That's right. He was out there talking to the traitors of America. That's right, Paul Gozar. But as the lawmakers began banging on the doors, as the attackers began banging on the doors of the House chamber, and Capitol Police instructed lawmakers to put on their gas masks, Gozar seemed paralyzed with fear, Cheney said. I had not been aware that there were gas masks under the seat of the U.S. chamber. By the way, neither did I. I didn't realize those were there. And it's like an Oprah giveaway, only not really nice. Cheney wrote in her book, I reached under my seat and pulled out the black pouch. Inside the pouch was a box that contained another bag. I tore it open the bag and took out the rescue hood inside. I look up and see Gozar still standing in front of the podium where he'd been delivering remarks now that he was afraid and fumbling with his gas mask. Gozar said, how do you even open this? Cheney recalled, repeating over and over. She grabbed the pouch, opened it, and handed it back to him. Less than an hour before, Gozar had been repeating all kinds of unproven allegations, none of which had gone anywhere in the Arizona lawsuits. He promoted a conspiracy theory that 400,000 ballots had been altered or switched from Trump to Joe Biden, which was an outright lie. If Gozar really believed that there was enough fraud in Arizona to election to overturn it and throw out millions of votes, I wonder how he could have voted if he did less than 72 hours earlier to recognize his own victory and officially seat himself, which is, once again, one of the slight problems that all these Biden conspiracy theory politicians have. A lot of them got elected on the same exact ballots. And their argument is, well, that question was legitimate, but the other question wasn't. Yeah, exactly. And by the way, I think that was a mistake. I think that after January 6th, if you would have said to these people, then we're going to throw out the entire election, that includes your election, I think very quickly a lot of these Republicans would have immediately said, no, I didn't say it. I thought it was an illegitimate election. I just was saying some people were saying, I think I should still be seated, that sort of thing. Gozar, who is later named Stop the Steal group leader by Ali Alexander as being among the 4 lawmakers who came up with the January 6th event, was to build momentum and pressure. And of course, then when you unleash the mob, sometimes they don't just go for the Frankenstein monster. Let's just put it that way. And that's what Johnny Wet Pants over there was doing. So 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. I have to admit this next story to a point surprises me. Just because, have you guys seen every election since you guys overturned Roe v. Wade on the Republican side? Have you seen this shift that's occurred of 10 to 15 points pretty much almost across the board? Sometimes it's a little closer, but for the most part, it's a pretty astounding amount of shift. Reminder, in 2022, you guys were having the red tsunami. Yeah, that didn't work for you. That didn't happen, did it? No, you didn't. You didn't get a red tsunami. You kind of got beat badly. Now, you did get the U.S. House, but that's been going spectacularly for you guys. Oh, you guys are really leading up the whole place up there. What was it about the speaker out there insisting we're going to defend the insurrectionists? Oh, good for you. Anywho, they don't seem to be able to read the room, at least not in New Hampshire. No, I do have an actual, but I will say, as I go through this story, I've got a theory about what they might be doing here. I'll get to that here in a second. Republicans in New Hampshire, Pepperidge Farm remembers, filed one of the most extreme abortion bans in the country on Tuesday. And a GOP trifecta could allow the bill to become law once the legislature starts the 2024 session next month. The bill was pre-filed in the House in September, but the full text of the abortion ban was only released Tuesday morning. Yeah, the legislation prohibits abortion other than for a medical emergency if the gestational age of the fetus is more than 15 days. I want to repeat that. The only exception is a medical emergency if the woman's been pregnant for more than 15 days. And I can say, as a man who's had 3 kids, most women probably don't even know they are pregnant until maybe the 15 days. So, yeah, this is pretty much an outright ban. The 15-day abortion ban filed by Republican lawmakers is an insult to Granite Staters. State Representative Alexis Simpson, deputy leader of the New Hampshire House Democratic Caucus, on Tuesday. At 15 days, most women don't even know they're pregnant. We must say it like it is. This proposal would amount to a complete abortion ban in New Hampshire with no exceptions. 3 Republicans in the House and 1 in the Senate co-sponsored the bill. The main sponsor, State Representative Dave Testerman, introduced several anti-choice bills last legislative session, including a ban on abortion once a fetal cardiac activity is detected. The sponsors define the medical emergency as a condition in which an abortion is necessary to preserve the life of the pregnant woman whose life is endangered by a physical disorder, physical illness, or physical injury. Notice they specifically did not allow for any mental well-being to be included in that. The legislation specifies that a life-threatening physical condition caused by the pregnancy itself that creates a serious risk of substantial and irreversible impairment of major bodily function is also included under the medical emergency exception. There are no exceptions for rape or incest under the bill's current language. The bill includes a felony penalty and a $100,000 fine for any provider who performs or induces an abortion after 15 days gestation. The ban will go into effect January 1st, 2025, if it successfully passes through the state legislature and the governor signs it into law. The ban of 15 days essentially amounts to a total prohibition on abortion. The vast majority of people don't realize they're pregnant until they miss their first menstrual period, usually between 4 and 6 weeks' time, though it varies depending on the person's cycle. 14 states currently have total abortion bans in the books, and several others have 6-week, 12-week, and 15-week bans in place. The New Hampshire House Democrats will stand together to add the right to abortions to our state constitution and fight against the unrelenting attempts in restricting our constituents' reproductive health care. In a state where voters overwhelmingly believe that reproductive health decisions should be made solely between the patient and medical provider. Reminder, wasn't it funny when it was COVID that was the scream of all Republicans? It's like, yeah, the decisions of vaccines should be between the patient and the doctor. That's it. But all of a sudden, when it's this, it's you don't have any rights to privacy. That's your Republican hypocrisy. This is all my job is just to point this crap out. So there you go. Bon appetit. Stopping this bill isn't enough. It must be completely renounced. Some 66% of New Hampshire adults said the 2014 survey they believe abortion should be legal in most or all cases. So, that was, by the way, my first clue. I'll come back to that here in a second. I got a theory about something here. New Hampshire is considered a battleground state in presidential elections, but Republicans gained a trifecta in 2021 after flipping both the House and state Senate. However, the GOP majorities in both legislative bodies are slim. In the House, there's 198 Republicans to 195 Democrats, 3 independents, and 4 vacancies. The Senate consists of 14 Republicans and 10 Democrats. Governor Chris Sununu, a Republican who has been in office since 2017, has said that he's a pro-choice governor who supports abortion rights. He's reading the writing on the wall. He says he supports it even into the second trimester. It's not impossible that Sununu would veto the ban if it gets to his desk. So I don't think this is going to pass in New Hampshire. I don't. I think that this is there are going to be too many Republicans who are in clearly swing districts. And when you look at 66%, that's not okay, well, it's, if my district is 1 or 2, plus D on the district, that's going to be a hard sell. No, you're looking, if you got a 66% approval rate for an issue, you're looking at like +5, +6 on the Republican side is in jeopardy with that, especially since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. That's what we have seen. And I'm going to presume that this is going to go very badly for them the next election cycle. So the question I have, especially when you look at that number and you look at the fact that the governor is not going to sign a 2-week abortion ban, he's just not. Is the point of this bill to basically give some Republicans the ability to get the perception that they're moderate? Reminder, we just had in the last election cycle in 2023, last month, we had a referendum on this new moderate Republican abortion stance, which was, in Virginia. And it was this, we're not for an outright ban. We want women to have their own choice. We still think there should be some restrictions, but not, I don't think it was, was it 16 weeks? Was it 16 weeks there? So it was well into the second trimester. I think was the decision. They're saying, so we're not like these southern states where they're basically, it's, there's no choice at all. We want to have choices up here. And they still lost in Virginia. They still lost. They did not get, this was a referendum on Northam and all that stuff. And it failed in Virginia. So we've already seen the moderate tone fail the Republicans. This is a more unique situation. Clearly, none of the House or the Senate in New Hampshire is up for election. I mean, it sounds like it'll be 2025 when they'll be up for election in New Hampshire. So it's kind of a safe time to do this bill. And what it does is it creates the ability for Republicans to vote against it, knowing it's not going to go anywhere. Knowing that even in +4, +5 Republican districts in that state, they're not going to rail hard for this bill because it will doom them the next election. And I'm going to expect, I actually think this is going to be a game plan you're going to see by Republicans across a lot of states, where they'll find some right-wing troll of a House member or a senator or both who are in districts where a turnip with an R next to its name would win because they're just that far brainwashed. Put forward these extraordinarily restrictive abortion bills for the sole reason so that the rest of the Republicans go, hey, I'm personally against abortion, but I don't believe in restrictions like that. That's a little too extreme for me, to basically try to portray themselves as somewhat moderates. Because this is a huge freaking problem for the Republican Party. It is a huge freaking problem. And whether or not they're going to be able to figure out some way to overturn this tide that's turned against them after Roe v. Wade. I mean, they tried to vilify transgender people and drag queens and the LGBTQ. That hasn't worked for them. They've tried to moderate their abortion stance. That hasn't worked for them. So maybe this is their next path. I'll talk more when I come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Do yourself a favor and check out the amazing cuisine of eatlocalminnesota.com. More than just a website, eatlocalminnesota.com provides you with the best local and independently owned restaurants in the Twin Cities. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking cuisine, the Great Wall Chinese restaurant has been a local favorite since 1981. They offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include the sesame chicken, imperial beef, and Peking duck. The Great Wall restaurant is located off 45th and France, with takeout available too. More at greatwallrestaurant.us.
The next time you're out in South Minneapolis, make Nightingale off 26th and Lyndale your go-to dining option. It's a comfortable neighborhood restaurant that features a delicious menu of American classics, plus a wide drink and cocktail selection. Nightingale has dining room and bar seating available, plus takeout and delivery. Current hours are 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. daily with the full menu until midnight. More at nightingalempls.com.
Minnesotans are hardy. We don't let snow or ice get in our way. We have places to go, so making sure your vehicle is in prime shape for winter driving is so important. Take your vehicle to Rudy Luther Toyota for all your service needs. I was just there. I got my oil and filters replaced, and they did a complete safety check to make sure my vehicle can tackle what winter has up its sleeve. And they service all makes and models of vehicles. Head to RudyLutherToyota.com and use their super easy Toyota service scheduler to set up your service appointment today. Rudy Luther Toyota on the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
Hi, this is Frank Brown, owner of Minuteman Press Uptown, Minnesota's only minority-owned union printing company. And I have big news. We've moved. Our new building in North Minneapolis is much larger with state-of-the-art equipment. That means we can get your projects done faster. We're on Washington Avenue North off I-94 at the Dowling exit, which allows for quick pickup and drop-off with plenty of free parking. And yes, we still print everything. I moved to MP Uptown because as a Black business owner, I want to be in North Minneapolis and help provide jobs. At MP Uptown, we pay above living wages, hire people who have made mistakes in the past, and believe in social justice. We have over 175 Google reviews with a 5-star rating. Let us handle your next print project because when you support our business, you support the community. Call 612-870-0777 or visit mpuptown.com. That's mpuptown.com. We print everything.
Hello, this is Ellie Krug with Ellie 2.0 Radio. Now my show will be on Saturdays from 10 to 11 and replayed on Sundays from 1 to 2. You will get to the best of Ellie 2.0 with talking about idealism with guests who come in and who are idealistic, who are trying to change the world. And you will get me, Super Idealist. Tune in. We can't wait to hear from you. And you'll hear from me Saturdays from 10 to 11.
It is the Matt McNeil Show on a Tuesday. Good to be with you this afternoon, this evening. Matt, going back to what I was saying about New Hampshire, like I said, they tried to turn the culture warriors against the drag queens and the LGBTQ population and transgender people, and that has not worked like they were kind of hoping it would be. They had all these people that were swimming in the same direction to get rid of Roe v. Wade, and now that's kind of blown up in their face. They try to get it to go the other way, and they just sound like a bunch of hate mongers, and they sound horrible. Bigots, that's what they sound like. They tried the more moderate approach. So now I think this is what it's going to be, is you're going to see these setup votes. And I mean, it's not going to happen here, at least in Minnesota, because the Democrats control everything. So they're not even going to allow, a bill like that to come up. They won't even get out of a committee hearing. But, in some of these states where they have Republican, majorities, don't be surprised if you see bills like this, these just, even in more moderate states, these outrageous bills all of a sudden come up for the vote solely for the purpose of basically Republicans can say, I personally am against abortion, but I'm not that guy, that sort of thing. Because they got to figure out some way to basically convince people that taking away your rights is somehow a virtue. And that's who these people are. They are taking away your rights. This is every election, every stinking election. That this is every election. That's what you have to remember. From here on out, everyone votes. Everyone votes. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Final thing this hour, I wanted to check in on the stupidest human being to ever become the senator in the U.S. Senate, Tommy Tuberville. That's right. And I'm dead serious. That dude is a brick with lips. He is dumb. I mean, he is really stupid. I mean, I wouldn't trust him with a spoon stupid. He is really an idiot. And so he thought, dumb guy, make fun things, stop military. And I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but I still made him sound smarter than he really is. The Tuberville of Alabama said Tuesday he is going to stop his pathetic charade, and he's releasing a bulk of his holds for Senate votes to confirm military promotions. Good. Now, once again, I'm a veteran of the military. It was clear from what I was reading in, say, Stars and Stripes and other military outlets that clearly this was impacting the readiness and preparedness of the U.S. military. And we just have a boat out in the middle of the Red Sea that's getting fired on. And it sounded like, if I'm not mistaken, there was at least 2 people in the chain of command that would be responsible for that boat who are not being seated because of Tuberville. And I don't know if that was finally enough for him to basically say, okay, I am actually jeopardizing the troops at this point. I need to stop. I don't know. But I will say, you know, this whole charade, and his whole thing was basically that he wanted to force Biden to basically pull back on his the ability for military personnel to get abortions, even in places where abortions were illegal. And they were like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to, take away the rights of the military people who are fighting for our freedom. Tuberville told his colleagues in a closed-door meeting in the Capitol that he will release the promotions of 3-star nominees and below the vast majority of the nominees. The move comes after he faced bipartisan pressure. I mean, and it does sound like Republican senators were viciously going after him, saying, you are screwing this up. It wasn't 1 or 2. I mean, it was quite a few of the Republican senators were livid with this idiot. The move comes after he faced bipartisan pressure on the holds. Tuberville had started in March and delayed the confirmations of more than 450 top military nominees. Tuberville made the announcement that he was backing off the military holds with the exceptions of fewer than a dozen 4-star promotions during a Senate lunch. He said it was important that Republicans be united and not vote for rules changes that would have allowed Schumer to bring up the nominees in block. And so basically that was kind of the other thing too, is that they had finally said enough, and that it did sound like enough Republicans were so upset with him that they could have easily gotten past any kind of 60 vote threshold and just approved all the military promotions at his expense. So now he's basically saying, hey, Republicans, don't vote to stop this. Let me still hold on to the senior level military officers. Let me stop them from getting promotions. But yeah. After almost a year of holding up the promotions of military nominees in opposition to military's reproductive rights policy, Tuberville says he has no regrets after he released hundreds of holds without getting anything in return. Is there anything more predictable than when a Republican, you remember when Ted Cruz, they shut down the government, and it ended up, not only did it not do anything, that we lost like something like $4 billion that we ended up having to pay because he shut down the government. And he came on out and was like, I think we sent a message. Yeah, the message is you're a freaking idiot. How about that? That's the message you sent to everyone. You're a moron. Here's Tuberville. We saw some success. What are you talking about? You didn't do a damn thing, you idiot. We didn't get as much out of this as we wanted, Tuberville said. Hey, I've heard actually there was some discussions that maybe they were thinking about starting to pull the military bases out of Alabama. That's how much he's ruffled the feathers of the troops, is that there was discussion, I think, at the highest levels of the military saying, all right, do we need any bases in Alabama? We can put them in Mississippi. We can put them over in Georgia. We don't need them in Alabama, do we? So I think that might have, if that's true, that might have put some pressure on him too. Tuberville added, actually, no, he didn't say that. He did say the only opportunity you get to people up on the left here is to listen to you as the minority is to put a hold on something. I think, yeah, no one did anything. What are you talking about? Stop acting like you basically got your way. No, you just look like a petulant man-child who's too stupid to not look straight up into the sky when it's raining. Stop it, Tuberville. This is where, yeah. Asked what his message was to military families who have been affected by his holds, Tuberville responded, thank you for your service. As a veteran myself, from the bottom of my heart, if I may speak on behalf of all the people that you've just screwed over with your foolish methods here, go blank yourself, you jackass. It's okay? That's you, Senator Tuberville. Go blank yourself. You absolutely horrible human being. You are not worthy of working at an ice cream stand, let alone being in the Senate. Thank you much. We'll be back. Hour 2 up next.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month, but you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio.
Sponsored by Age of Learning.
Tune in for Philosophy Talk, the program that questions everything
except your intelligence.
Coming up, In Awe of Wonder.
Descartes said that the purpose of wonderment is to get us to learn and remember.
But why does wonder have to have a purpose?
You want to waste your life staring slack-jawed at rainbows, not learning anything about them?
You want science to take all the joy out of rainbows?
In Awe of Wonder. Next time on Philosophy Talk.
Philosophy Talk, every Sunday at 8 a.m. on AM 950.
Hi, it's Matt McNeil. Listen to the Matt McNeil Show from 3 until 5 weekday afternoons right here on the progressive voice of Minnesota, AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. For months, Alabama Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville has been blocking military appointments over a new Pentagon policy on abortion. Today, Tuberville lifted the blockade.
It was pretty much a draw. I mean, they didn't get what they wanted. We didn't get what we wanted.
Tuberville says holds will continue for about 11 of the highest-ranking military officers, those who would be promoted to what he described as the 4-star level or above. At the Pentagon, spokesman Brigadier General Pat Ryder says,
we have a very important mission in terms of defending this nation. And anytime you add a level of uncertainty into the chain of command, it creates an unnecessary friction. It has an impact on readiness as we try to stay focused on the mission, which we are going to do.
In Texas, a pregnant woman whose fetus has a fatal diagnosis is asking a court to let her have an abortion. Her attorney says this is the first lawsuit of its kind since Roe versus Wade was overturned last year. On a day, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke by video to senators about more U.S. aid. Republicans like Wyoming's John Barrasso are linking aid to Ukraine and other countries to more money for border security.
So Chuck Schumer can bring a bill to the floor of the Senate. If it doesn't include what we need on border security, it will fail. Republicans will vote against it.
Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says this policy is radical, straight from Donald Trump.
While immigration's important, it's a separate issue from foreign aid to Ukraine and Israel and humanitarian aid to Gaza and the Indo-Pacific.
Retired Justice Sandra Day O'Connor will lie in repose at the Supreme Court December 18th, with a funeral at the National Cathedral the following day. The first woman on the Supreme Court, O'Connor died Friday at the age of 93 in Phoenix. Most stocks slipped today on Wall Street, but the market hung near its highest level in 20 months. This is AP News.
Hey, I came as fast as I could. What's wrong?
Everything's okay. I just need you to know I'm glowing up.
You just texted SOS Get Here Now.
And I stand by that because I switched to Cricket and got the all-new Motorola Razr. I have entered my flip era and I am glowing up.
I'm gonna go back home.
I support that.
Switch to Cricket and get the all-new Motorola Razr for $199.99. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Must open a new line on a $60 a month voice plan. First month service charge and tax due at sale. Fees, terms, and restrictions apply. See cricketwireless.com for details.
It's the holiday season, and Famous Footwear is stocked with all the styles your family wants from the brands you love at prices that fit everyone's list. Shop the comfiest Hey Dude shoes and coolest Crocs, or snag the perfect pair of Bear Paw boots and slippers. Plus, for a limited time, find the latest Nike styles for the whole family at savings of up to 30% off. Shop famous.com or bring the whole family into a Famous Footwear near you and spread some cheer this holiday season with the gift of famously great shoes.
Explore a world of stories, discussions, and camaraderie at Next Chapter Booksellers. They have a variety of genre-specific book clubs that meet monthly, including clubs for romance lovers, sci-fi, and manga. If your own book club needs suggestions, Next Chapter Booksellers can help you find the right book for any topic. Plus, for the little ones, Next Chapter Booksellers has children's story time every Saturday. Check nextchapterbooksellers.com for details about all of their clubs. That's the independently owned Next Chapter Booksellers off Snelling and Grand in St. Paul.
Cafe Latte offers made-from-scratch soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts.
So come check out their pizza and wine bar or get a treat from the bakery made fresh daily. Plus, you can still do online ordering and takeout along with gift cards. Just go to cafelatte.com and choose from their ever-changing selection of award-winning salads, sandwiches, and soups. Cafe Latte is located off Victoria and Grand and online at cafelatte.com.
It's no secret that medical care costs are soaring, with nursing home and skilled nursing care costs being some of the highest. You don't have to deplete your savings in order to receive long-term care. At Schroman Law, we work with families to develop and implement strategic planning for medical assistance for long-term care, for assisted living, nursing home care, or home-based care. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation at schromanlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy sky today with a high near 36, tonight partly cloudy with a low around 24, and Wednesday partly sunny with a high around 45. Crooner's Supper Club invites you to check out the stylish Maggie's Lounge before or after your show. With a welcoming atmosphere, it's the perfect place to catch up with friends before or after a show. Open Wednesdays through Saturdays beginning at 4:30. Stop by for cocktails and light bites. More at croonersloungemn.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Hour number 2 of the show here on your Tuesday. Matt, Brett, Patrick, all here today. We should say, I mean, just we haven't really, I haven't talked too much about a lot of the things that we've had happen here, but we've had, of course, our 3 o'clock hour is carried in Chicago at 9 o'clock at night. I listened to it last night. That's weird, man. It's weird.
Yeah, it is a little weird to hear. You're listening to the best in Chicago progressive voice. Now it's time for the Matt McNeil show.
And I hope your expectations weren't set too high. The good news is, if you do have high expectations, our evening programming, chef's kiss, because we got Rick at 8, Patty now is at 9, and then we've got the Shag and Scoob over at 10 o'clock, right?
Absolutely. Greg Bakken with Ghost Box Radio. A part of my nightly routine now is
I'm sorry, Greg. I'm sorry.
Funny, I think.
Okay, good. I hope you do, Greg. I love your show. It's good stuff. As a matter of fact, a lot of fans of that.
But what would it be without radio, without rivalries between the hosts? With you and Greg giving each other the stink eye from now on. Though,
don't get me and Tom Hartman in the same room together. We'll start throwing fists, man.
After the incident last year.
Yes. A few things we have to discuss. First of all, we do have a new state seal. I think, of course, we have the state seal and the state flag images. I think all of us said there was one state seal that was up and above better than everyone else. That's the loon that's up and, kind of up, and it's got grain and water and pines. And I mean, it is clearly the best of the images. If you see, you know which one I'm talking about with the state seal.
I think I know which one, but I will say any of these are an improvement over the current flag, which is just
there's a seal. This is a seal, not the flag.
Seal. Oh, I got
seal.
You. Yeah.
The seal. It was also pretty bad.
It was a busy flag. Yeah.
Well, the flag is busy. We still haven't had a solution on this. I think that snowflake star one is the leader right now. But it sounds like, okay, so with the seal, the state seal, it sounds like, okay, now that we figured this out, there's some tweaks that they want to make to it. So I'm going to presume if they get to the final on the flag, they'll make some tweaks to it, and we'll see if we can find some way to, because there's always going to be people that's like, I hate it, no matter what. That's just their natural stance. I think it's, you got to update it, you got to change it. And no matter what, there's going to be a substantial amount of the population that's going to hate it, just because that's just the way things are.
I noticed that last night when I was checking Facebook. I had a friend that goes, what was wrong with the current flag? I don't like all of these. Have you even looked at the current flag? It's not good. These new designs are way better. They're less busy. They mean something.
Well,
there's
and
just
also
so much going on that
flag was somewhat racist.
And there's that little thing too. Yes.
It was like, hey, we're the white people working the land by Native Americans. No, that needs to go. Needs to go. So I don't know when the flags are going to come on out. Anita's in town. Anita Gall, who's part of that committee. She's in town on the 12th, I think it is. So we'll see if I can get her into the show and talk with her in-house, and maybe she can bring us some more of that honey. That honey was tasty.
Well, that's the motivation right there.
It really is the whole thing. So guys, got good news for us. A cougar's been spotted in Minneapolis. Here we go.
Just one?
Yeah, well, I mean, depends on. I mean, is that the Galleria? I mean, it was. No. Cougar tracks. Now, Kitty's got some claws. Cougar. Sorry, you can't put a story out like this and not expect me to be a child. Cougar tracks were spotted in the snow in a Minneapolis neighborhood Tuesday morning. One day after the big cat was captured on home security footage, the cougar sauntered across the driveway in Lowry Hill. This is downtown, man, at around 3:30 a.m. Well, I mean, at least he was walking home from the bars. I mean, let's just be honest with you. That's the way to do it. Where would it be? It's got to be down where they're building the light rail, because that's down the hill there. It's got to be in there somewhere. Hello. Dan, is there anyone missing a puppy? Because I can tell you right, that thing would take out cat, dog, anything.
Yeah, that's a little scary to have a cougar roaming around that area.
Okay, actually, no. Okay, stop. How many dumpsters are over there off those restaurants? I mean, he's down at Uptown Diner, right down the street at 26 in Hennepin. I mean, he's getting some of those flapjacks. That's what how fat is this cat? Just gonna be
I just hope he doesn't go on the territory of the turkeys, otherwise we could have a real conflict on our hands.
Oh man,
I heard they're very territorial.
Like
cougars allowed.
With wolves taking on a moose, it'd be like turkeys taking on the cougar. I'm putting money on the turkeys.
Yeah, they could win with numbers.
They are mean. The turkeys of Minneapolis are mean. There's a sense of excitement. Oh, that's one word to put it. To have something like that in your neighborhood and also cause a concern. Okay, who doesn't like a cougar in their neighborhood? Sorry. I'm going to be doing this. I'm sorry. I'm going to be doing this the entire time. So just kind of buckle up and just prepare yourself, because it's just as stupid the first time as it is the second time. Even more surprising was seeing cougar tracks on the street Tuesday morning after Monday night's snowfall. Robin Bruggerman posted a video Monday on the neighborhood website Nextdoor. Great. Let me tell you why the cougars are racist.
And
great. Thank you.
Spiraled into a political debate about Obama and Biden. Yeah.
I'd rather have the cougars. Never mind. I'm not. Nextdoor is a cesspool. 50 comments on the Nextdoor app. People expressing shock, awe, concern of the animal. The authorities have been notified about the sighting. The mark's only the second time a cougar has been spotted in Hennepin County since 2004. Come on, it depends on where you're hanging out, man. Have you gone to some of the restaurants down by Galleria? Take your pick. Have you gone to a Bally's Fitness, man? I mean, they're just going to let you know. I mean, they're all over the place. Like I said. There's also one spotted a few weeks ago in Carver County. Do you think it got up here from Carver? How could it? It could. I mean, I guess it would have to cross one of the bridges at that point, or maybe, I don't think the rivers are frozen, so it couldn't cross that way. It'd probably come across one of the bridges.
Yeah, maybe late at night or low traffic or something.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah.
Encountering a cougar, also known as a mountain lion, is extremely rare in Minnesota. Many cougars avoid confrontation. It sounds like most people in the state. I'm not going to bother with it. If someone does run into one of the big cats, the DNR recommends facing it, speaking loudly and firmly to combat the animal's tendency to hunt by stalking. By the way, not what you do with the other kind of cougar. I mean, just don't do that. Hi there, my name's Fel.
So you make them go. Just talk loudly and make eye contact.
Hi there, how are you? Do you like Vikings football? Guys, don't. No, just stop, okay? Shooting a cougar is illegal under state law, thank God, even to protect livestock or pets. Public safety officers are the only people authorized to kill a cougar that poses a threat to humans. Oh, good. The Minneapolis police have showed up. Encounters and sightings should be reported as soon as possible as conservation officer or local law enforcement, so that evidence such as tracks, hair, and scat, and boy, that internship is sure paying off, isn't it? It can be documented.
I'm just curious, when you get the 911 call, which cop has to do that? It has to be the person that has to go take out the cougar. It's got to be an unusual call.
Well, I mean, I would hope you could just. I've only seen one cougar, and it wasn't even in Minnesota. It was on the Canadian side of the Loon River. I went up to Crane Lake, took the Loon River up to Loon Lake, and went fishing up there, one of the border lakes. And there's this huge stretch there where it's this big rock wall. And I saw it, and it literally did one of those big stretches and ran up the hill. I said, yeah, that had to be. My dad was saying, are you sure it wasn't a lynx? I said, it just looked way too big to be a lynx. So mountain lion, that's the only one I've ever seen. And that wasn't close. I'm going to guess a football field distance. And he was way up on top of the hill. So that's the only one time I've ever seen it. So apparently It's time for me to go roam the neighborhoods of Lowry Hill. Hello. But cologne does not help you in this situation on either side. Just going to let you know. Extra cologne doesn't help.
But talking loudly and making eye contact does.
All right, speaking of which. So apparently this is over at the Midtown Global Market. Someone has created a snow creature image, and they want people to name it. Now, I'm going to show this on camera, and I'm going to show this to Brett, and there you go. Yeah, Brett's facial expression is there. This is out of Racket, Minnesota. You can see it there at Racket. That is a disturbing creature. That is, and like Ken, there's nothing down below the waistline. Let's just put it that way. So imagine, how would I describe this? Imagine if a Yeti kind of got on a body sculpting class, I guess, it's kind of thinner, but still the goofy Yeti face. I think we get him to call him the McNeil. I mean, can we get them to call it? Because it is actually kind of a likeness.
Oh, we could switch your logo instead of the Sasquatch.
I'm not against this. Although, I mean, the Sasquatch, this is really kind of disturbing. I mean, this is around where people are eating. I don't know. Patrick, have you seen the picture of the bizarre creature?
I have not. And now I don't really want to, but I'll probably have to.
Yeah, that's part of your job. Yeah, you can apparently name this beast. Like I said, I think we go with McNeil. But it's over at Midtown Global Market. You can go see it. Scare the kids. Happy holidays. I think that is a disturbing image, isn't it?
Yeah, something like a mummy got into a genetic experiment, or as he said, a Yeti just started hitting the gym pretty hard. It's one of those things.
Considering kind of goofy look, really pale white, guessing Republican voter right there. So I'm sorry. All right.
It's not Marjorie Taylor Greene.
This is the leader for Trump's running mate right now. Hello, I want you to be running with me. I like the way you look. You remind me of a large pile of ice cream. You want to go with? It does actually look like a large pile of ice cream that's come to life. You go see it. Go Racket. Minnesota's got the picture of it. It's the bone-chilling snow creature that lives inside the Midtown Global Market. It doesn't live. It's just a statue. But it's looking for a new name. McNeil.
Do we know it doesn't live? We might have to have Bakken go check that out. That thing's kind of freaky.
I know where we can find a cougar to go take care of it if it is. Yeah. Minneapolis has got quite a good wildlife scene. The snow creature is being taken out by a cougar here. Oh, look, empanadas are on sale. Yum, love those. 952-946-6205. Something tells me that artist is going to make a mint off of that thing when they eventually do sell it. Could they put it in the studio? Come on, man. We'll get it next to Lindell.
That would be.
We'll put the creature in the corner of Lindell. Well, the creature is Lindell. We'll put him the snow thing next to the creature, and there. Gosh, I mean that would be a lovely addition to the studio.
We could start a collection of these cardboard cutouts after a while of various right-wing figures and random just statues or cutouts. Yeah.
I love the idea of that. All right. We've goofed around enough. We actually have our good friend, Patrick Cooligan, finally returning after kind of an on and off stretch here, but he's back with us from the Minnesota Reformer to talk about what stories you guys get into.
Yeah,
today.
We have no shortage of topics to talk about today. We're going to be visiting his column that talked about the Good Friday Agreement in Ireland from 25 years ago, and talking about how Ireland got sick of political violence and how we can draw some parallels here in the United States. We'll also be talking about their great article they took out, or they wrote, that talked about how here in the metro area, no, we are paying more in taxes than rural Minnesotans. So that and a lot more are coming up with Patrick Cooligan. Jam-packed interview today.
I love how they took down Senator Dom's a Republican, who tried to suggest that, you're taking our taxpayer dollars. Oh, stop
he was fudging some math on that for
a
sure.
little.
Yeah.
He was fudging something there. All right. It's Brett talking to Patrick Cooligan from the Minnesota Reformer right here on AM 950.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Brett Johnson with you here on a Tuesday afternoon. And today we are joined by the editor-in-chief of the Minnesota Reformer. That's Patrick Cooligan. great resource for the latest in Minnesota news and politics is minnesotareformer.com. As we have a number of stories to talk about today, including the fact that, well, the Twin Cities metro area, to no one's surprise, ends up, spending more money than they take in terms of tax revenue, which kind of flies in the face of what Republicans often say. We'll also be talking about whether shoplifting levels are rising or falling in Minnesota. Plus, we'll be talking about a dispute that a couple of DFL lawmakers may be having on Israel. And we'll also touch on Patrick's column about the Good Friday Agreement that was reached 25 years ago and some parallels that could be relevant towards today. So, Patrick, thanks so much for coming back on the show.
Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. So let's start off talking about, well, where our tax money is getting spent, who's taking in more money or who's maybe taking in less money. That has to do with the whole urban versus rural divide. Because Madison McVan recently wrote an article in the Minnesota Reformer talking about how it's really the metro area taxpayers that end up, well, footing more of the bill as compared to our rural residents in Minnesota, which is something we often hear Republicans talk about, saying, well, it's actually rural people who are getting the worst end, who are spending more money than they're taking in, when it's the exact opposite situation. So this all kind of stemmed from this New Ulm Republican Gary Doms, who said rural people are getting a bad deal, as he says that rural Minnesotans are taking in less money as compared to metro Minnesotans on transportation, healthcare, and education. So I'm curious, where is he getting these numbers from, and are these
districts like, say, Minneapolis gets more than some rural districts. It's simply a matter of a mathematical, very complicated algorithm, and there's plenty of districts. It goes the other way, where you have suburban districts in particular who are getting the least amount, metro suburban districts, compared to rural districts that are getting a lot because of for various reasons. But I think the more cogent point here is that there's this idea that somehow the metro is kind of like a parasite off of rural Minnesota, and it's just completely untrue, especially if you look at the tax side. I mean, and it makes perfect sense. We have more people, we have higher paying jobs, and we have more valuable property. And so as a result, there's just a lot more tax revenue coming out of here. And if you think about it a little bit, I think it makes sense. For instance, we've been having a debate about whether or not we should have copper sulfide mining in northeastern Minnesota. And we often hear estimates about how many jobs a mine might create. And in the case of PolyMet, it's 600 or 700 jobs. Well, the reality is that if you go onto United Health website, you will find 600 or 700 job openings, and these are really high-paying jobs, programmers and business development, that kind of thing. So I don't think it should surprise anyone that we're paying way more taxes in the metro than greater Minnesota. And the other disadvantage that greater Minnesota faces is that they don't have these economies of scale like we do, so it's more expensive to provide a lot of services. And then they also don't have, they often small communities they can't afford to, or they don't have anybody on staff who's applying for grants, for instance. It's just a common misconception, which unfortunately drives a lot of political polarization and a lot of really bitterness. And it's just it's all based on a myth. And so we hope to correct Senator Dobbs, and we'll see if he learns from us or not.
Yeah, well, it remains to be seen whether that's going to be the case. But just to finish up on this as well, you brought up some logical points as to why, in some cases, well, the metro area may be spending more than we take in, or even vice versa. You brought up the case where, well, the metro area obviously has more people. We have jobs that pay more money. Property values are higher. And even if you look at sales tax, well, oftentimes people from rural areas will end up spending those sales tax dollars in metro areas when they have to do their shopping. And you even brought up the example of, I think this was the city of Big Fork, Minnesota, a town of 400, where, yeah, the mayor talked about how they have an affordable housing crisis and they'd like to apply for some grants to help, but they simply, being a town of 400, can't afford to hire someone to do that full-time job to apply for all of these grants. So I guess the point I'm making is that really there's a lot of logical reasons when you sometimes see these disparities between urban and rural tax revenues versus expenses. There's logical reasons that it's not this whole idea that, well, one side is out to get the other, rural people are out to screw over urban people, or urban people are out to screw over rural people. Oftentimes there's logical reasons why we see these disparities.
Yeah, it's really not politics. And I think if you look at the bonding bills, these are the bills that are every other year or every year lately, that are public works projects, and because it's borrowed money, usually requires a supermajority. If you look at these bills, they're really geographically pretty balanced, and the Capital Investment Committee goes out to these really far-flung communities and is investing serious money in water infrastructure and road and bridge construction and maintenance. I think there's is there going to be some geographic imbalance because of the way our politics have become so geographically polarized? Yeah, probably. But generally speaking, this is not some grand conspiracy by Metro folks to try to take from rural Minnesota. That's just not what's going on at all.
Well, staying on the topic of myths, let's go to another myth that is often floated by Republicans and people who are on the right side of the aisle, and that has to do with the fact that, well, pretty much ever since the pandemic, we have had out-of-control crime throughout the Twin Cities, and especially when it comes to shoplifting. But some interesting numbers just came out from the Council of Criminal Justice talking about, well, the monthly reported shoplifting rates per 100,000 people. And that rate in the Twin Cities has fallen dramatically since the pre-pandemic levels of 2019, where if you look at the stats, the shoplifting instances are really going down quite dramatically. So I guess my question is, why are we seeing this reduction in shoplifting, and why is that perception still out there that crime is out of control when really the data is flying in the face showing that it's not out of control, especially with shoplifting?
Yeah, our reporter Chris Ingram did some great work on this. I mean, it's possible that the retailers are not reporting it. It's possible that they've taken, and I think a lot of us have seen the measures they've taken to prevent shoplifting. But there's a lot of evidence to think that that's actually, there's less shoplifting going on. And as far as why we're hearing so much about it continuously is probably related to the fact that the shoplifting that is happening tends to be more organized and kind of sensational. But apparently it's actually happening less frequently than it was even pre-pandemic. So it's kind of another example of an ongoing story with a lot of sensationalized media and a lot of self-interested political actors, like you said, on the right side of the spectrum, who want us to think that the cities in particular are these kind of chaotic, crime-ridden hellscapes, and there's at least some evidence pointing in the other direction.
Well, you can read more about Christopher Ingham's reporting on that, talking about shoplifting and how it's falling in the Twin Cities over at MinnesotaReformer.com. Now, I want to move on to a column that you wrote last week that has to do with the Good Friday Agreement that was signed a little over 25 years ago over in Ireland, and some parallels we can draw from the troubles we saw in Ireland to some of the political conflict and political violence we are seeing in the United States, because your column suggests that the conflict's resolution was influenced, well, largely by the fighters who were aging in that conflict and their desire to protect their children and just overall kind of being sick of the violence. Can you elaborate on how some of the personal experiences of the soldiers and people who were involved in that conflict, as well as their responsibilities of now being in parenthood and now in government at that time, kind of shifted their takes away from violence and more towards, well, getting away from violence in Ireland?
The reason that I was interested in this, my ancestors come from there, but also the topic of political violence has interested me and a lot of us, I think, in the last since 2016, when it does seem as if we've seen an uptick in political violence, and it feels like there could be an explosion of it. And I think that's a lot of us fear about this upcoming election. And so I wanted to get a sense for a country that had endured that kind of political bloodshed, and also a sense for how it all came to an end. And the problem is that violence can be just so cyclical, and kind of it creates its own logic where if you were to stop the violence, then all of the suffering that had come before suddenly lacks any meaning. And so it becomes a reason for its own continuation, and it makes it very hard to stop. And so I read this great book by Fintan O'Toole, who kind of recounts the last 50 years or so of Irish history, and he talks a little bit about how it stopped. And I mean, a couple things were the youthful leaders on both sides. They kind of grew up and they had children of their own, and they just didn't want to subject their own children to all this violence and suffering. And then the second part was they got more involved in normal politics. Like, think of it as a constituent service. Instead of hunger strikes and setting bombs, as they had got elected to parliament and so forth, they were suddenly, chasing down, as I put it, chasing down somebody's lost welfare check and that kind of thing. And when you get involved in normal politics, suddenly pragmatic concerns become front and center, as opposed to violent revolutionary concerns. And I think one of the things that we're seeing in the United States Congress is so many members have gotten away from those normal political concerns of, Representative Angie Craig is always, I'm always getting a press release about how the mail services needs to be improved. And it's like, that's the kind of politics I would like to see return in America, as opposed to, there's some of the nonsense that we see from the likes of the Freedom Caucus, who are openly engaging in something pretty close to revolutionary politics.
And you would hope it wouldn't take something like we saw in Ireland, where we had just a whole bunch of violence that basically led to people, as you said, going into government and realizing, well, wait, there are everyday needs people have, and the fact that, well, we have children, that we don't want to subject them to the same violence. And I guess I kind of say that because if we are to have future political violence in America at a large scale, I don't think it's going to be, like the 1860s with a full-on civil war. It'll probably be something much more like we saw with the kind of conflicts in Ireland back in the late 20th century. And I think, there certainly are some lessons we could learn from over there to take to here. And I just hope it doesn't take what we saw in Ireland to have us tone down some of the political violence rhetoric that we often see right now.
Let's hope. And then the other concern about the situation here is that there's 400 million guns floating around the United States. And that was always an issue for the IRA, was getting their hands on weapons, and that would never be an issue for any violent political group here.
Yeah, unfortunately, as you said, yeah, there would be no shortage of weapons that they would have access to with the gun laws in our country. And one more story to cover before we have to wrap things up, and this has to do with some divisions we've been seeing among Democrats on the issue of the Israel-Hamas conflict. Now, where we're going to go is an email exchange between State Senators Ron Latz and Omar Fattah, who are both Democrats, and this has to do with a Facebook post by Rich Ginsburg, who is a DFL lobbyist and Metropolitan Airports Commissioner member who was appointed by Governor Tim Walz. Now, Ginsburg made a Facebook post that included a quote from Golda Meir, who is the late Israeli Prime Minister who helped found the country. And he said, quote, "Peace will come when Arabs will love their children more than they hate us." And Omar Fattah took exception to that post being made and then ended up having an email exchange with Ron Latz over this. So walk us a little bit through about this exchange between Fattah and Latz, and what were some of the key points that were raised by both members?
Yeah, there is a really serious division in the DFL on this issue. I think it's pretty painful, and I think it was kept under wraps for the first 6 weeks or so of the conflict, and now it's really come out into the open. And Senator Fattah wants the removal of Ginsburg. Ginsburg is a longstanding DFL operative and lobbyist and fundraiser, and Senator Fattah said, he's telling his colleagues, the reason you're so quiet on this is because he raises money for the party. And Latz defended Ginsburg and kind of gave the full context of the Golda Meir quote. And Fattah replied in kind, still, quite angry. And it's an emotional issue, and the party is certainly divided. It exposes other divisions in the party. And I think it's, do voters make decisions based on the conflict in the Middle East that doesn't involve the United States? Probably not. But I don't think the DFL wants to go into this next election cycle with deep emotional wounds related to this conflict, and I don't see how it's going to be healed. And of course, it was made even worse when Latz made a speech last week that he was sharply criticized for when he said something to the effect that Palestinian children dream of winning glory of martyrdom. He says he was referring to the indoctrination of anti-Semitism in Gaza schools, but that was not a satisfactory explanation for 13 of his colleagues who wrote a letter to him. It was a sharp rebuke of him, and so this conflict is it's ongoing, and we'll have to see if they're able to come to some kind of understanding. And remember, the state senate is 34-33 DFL. I mean, it's very closely divided. They really need to hang together. And one of the reasons they were so successful, the Democrats last year, in getting their legislative agenda passed, is because that Senate caucus hung together, even though there were some sharp disagreements on a number of issues. But this is, this really could be a real problem when the legislative session starts in February, and then certainly for the election.
You can read more about that over at minnesotareformer.com, the exchange between the two DFLers. Again, minnesotareformer.com. We have been speaking with Patrick Houlihan. He is the editor-in-chief of the Minnesota Reformer. We are just about out of time today. But Patrick, as always, appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on.
Always a pleasure.
Let's take a break and send things back over to Matt McNeil on AM 950.
Winter is here, and there's a good chance your home isn't being heated efficiently. And it's likely because of air sealing and insulation problems. Inadequate attic insulation is the leading contributor to high energy bills, cold rooms, and ice dams. Great news, the energy-efficient pros at Snap Construction can fix it all. Stop the heat from leaking out and save. Call 612-333-SNAP or visit snapconstruction.com for your free infrared energy inspection. Install with Snap Construction and qualify for over $750 in rebates and incentives. State and city programs are now offering 0% financing for qualifying insulation upgrades. So call Snap Construction for your free insulation energy consultation and start saving on your energy bills. Call 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP. Or visit snapconstruction.com. Snap Construction is arguably the most well-reviewed insulation and exterior contractor in the metro area.
1 year ago, I was in the accident which nearly killed me. The last year has been a lot of work recovering, and positivity has been a key. Staying positive, I no longer refer to the accident as an accident, but rather the day my Toyota Sienna from Rudy Luther Toyota saved my life. That's a factual statement, and the main reason why I'll always own one for the rest of my life. Some places will talk about auto safety, but I'm a living example of why you and your family can trust a Toyota from Rudy Luther Toyota. Go test drive one today and try the hybrids. They're fantastic. Rudy Luther Toyota on 394 in Golden Valley.
Seward Co-op is now offering convenient self-serve and prepackaged hot options and salad bars at both the Franklin and Friendship stores. Breakfast items available daily until 11 a.m. and brunch served all day every Sunday. Their weekly lunch and dinner menus highlight cuisines from around the world. They offer vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free options daily. 95% of the ingredients used are organic from small-scale, local community food producers whenever possible. More at seward.coop.
Hi, I'm Rachel Shamblat. My dad is Dr. Scott Shamblat from Shamblat Family Dentistry. A lot of people are afraid of the dentist, but you don't have to be. My dad makes going to the dentist comfortable and even fun. He won't be mad if you haven't seen a dentist in a long time. He just wants to take care of you and your teeth. If you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
Shamblat Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at shamblatfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
Check out AM 950's new evening lineup. At 8 p.m., we'll have a brand new version of The Rick Smith Show with limited commercial interruption. Then at 9 p.m., it's Driving at Home with Patty Vasquez. And as always, Greg Bakken caps off the evening with the best in paranormal talk with Ghost Box Radio at 10 p.m. Find our full schedule at am950radio.com.
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies today with a high near 36. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 24. And Wednesday, partly sunny with a high around 45. Crooner Supper Club invites you to check out the stylish Maggie's Lounge before or after your show. With a welcoming atmosphere, it's the perfect place to catch up with friends before or after a show. Open Wednesdays through Saturdays beginning at 4:30. Stop by for cocktails and light bites. More at croonersloungemn.com.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show, 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. Good to have you with us today. I wanted to get to a story today from that actually was from yesterday. That just obviously has a lot of impact and in regards to kind of how people are perceiving the mayor. Minneapolis City Council was debating rent control policies for the past 2.5 years. Mayor Jacob Frey was assuring developers behind the scenes that he'd never let it happen. Between early 2021 and late 2023, Frey sent 10 letters to developers, investors, and real estate brokers that included a line promising that he wouldn't support classic rent control in Minneapolis. He also vowed to oppose any policy that didn't exempt new construction, according to correspondence obtained by Axios and open records request. Now, you know, homelessness, we've talked about this a few times, and we have the reason why we have homelessness and having a problem is we have a housing crisis right now. We don't have affordable housing. We do not have housing. We have tons of housing for people making $60, $70, $80, $100,000 a year. We have tons of McMansions being built all over the place for people making $500,000, $600,000 a year. We have, huge houses that are being built for people that make millions and millions a year. But you don't have low-income apartments. You do not have low-income housing being built. It just is not happening. And by the way, I'm starting to get a little concerned that this whole system is going to crash because there's just not that many people that can just continually pay this amount of money unless all you're doing is, getting things into the hands of landlords. And I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing for us either. We need to have affordable housing. And we don't want to have a situation like the Bay Area, and nothing against the fine folks in the Bay Area, but I mean, their housing is insane. You're paying for a closet space for $2,000 a month. I mean, it's unbelievable how bad things have gotten out there. And, frankly, the idea of rent control, I think you have to put something in place here to prevent people from, you're building a building. And even if you do have lower income housing in there, you basically all the units are rented out and either being used as Airbnbs or being sold and used as Airbnbs. And I think you have to have some rules in place that basically say low income housing has to be preserved, and you can't have 80% of your rental spaces in a building be rental units, short-term rental units. So we got a big housing problem here, and I don't think the mayor is helping out too much. The letters show how far Fry is willing to go to make sure housing development didn't slow down in the city, with the belief that more supply would drive down prices. Wow, really? You think that? They also provide further confirmation that the mayor never planned to implement a strict rent control policy recommended by a working group made up of tenants and landlords. Fry's backdoor rhetoric largely matched what he was saying publicly at the time. In a recent interview with Axios, the mayor said he wrote the letters at the request of developers who needed them to assure investors, some of who didn't follow the news in the Twin Cities. I wanted to be very clear and lay out my position so that the pipeline of investment and supply wasn't cut off, and we've seen in so many other cities. Fry sent one to Minneapolis-based Ryan Coes and Kirkland, Washington-based Weidner apartment homes in December. 3 months later, the two firms broke ground on 25-unit, 350-unit apartment tower next to U.S. Bank Stadium that will open next year. Understanding Mayor Fry's perspective on rent control was helpful and was one of the many factors that contributed to the announcement of the Fourth and Park project, Ryan developer wrote in an email to Axios. Jennifer Arnold, executive director of the Inquilnix, the United Renters for Justice, an organization that advocates for rent control policy, said Frey has been unwilling to engage in the topic, even though voters approved moving an ordinance forward in the 2021 election. We expect our elected officials to listen to and work with all sides of an issue facing the city and try to solve issues. Here's my problem with Mayor Fry, is that this is not about you and a handful of companies making the decision for everyone else. Sir, I am a business major. Let me make sure you understand something very clear, because I don't think you understand this, Mr. Mayor. Companies are there to make money. There's not benevolence in their heart. They're just not. They are there to make money. And the fact that, you're buying their load of, well, we just keep building more and more buildings and the rents will come down. It doesn't work that way. And you're turning your back on your own citizens. How much does rent need to go up more before even you say, okay, maybe this is getting a little high? You need to do something here more than just call the developers and tell them, what do you want me to say? Homelessness is not, sure, there are some elements of drug use and there's some elements of mental health and stuff like this, but the vast majority of homelessness is a housing issue. And it's not just Minneapolis. I mean, it is happening in every single community in the state. There is just not affordable housing. That these companies that some people are portraying as benevolent only look at how in the world can we make money off these things. I have talked with people that work in the construction industry, and they say straightforward, they won't build buildings like they used to build in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, which were designed for, say a lower income. The only thing they're worried about is making sure that the buildings can make the most they possibly can. And some cities have regulations that say a certain amount of the building's rental units have to be for lower income housing, which is a good thing. But then a lot of those same cities don't have rules in place that basically make sure that the lower income people are indeed getting those units. And they can sell them on off, they get rented on off. And once again, a lot of these places, they're turned around and used as Airbnbs and stuff like that. It is somewhat deeply disappointing that the mayor seems to have turned his back on the voters, on the city council, on his own, housing council, and basically said, I'm just going to do the will of the construction companies. That's not going to solve this problem, sir. It's not. And no, dude, no. High-end apartment complex after high-end apartment complex after high-end apartment complex is not going to all of a sudden, we're cheap in rent. What do you think that that's what's going to happen? Because if that does happen, no one's going to be building anything. If all of a sudden the building that they have allotted for themselves to be a $3,000 to $4,000 a month rental, all of a sudden, if that's down to $1,000, you think they're going to still build buildings? No, they're going to shut everything down. And by the way, you should hope that doesn't happen. And the reason why is because that would mean there would be a major economic downturn in the city. No, you have to go on out there and put rules in place that make sure you protect the renters. And, it would be one thing, too, if he wasn't just every time there's a homeless encampment, it seems like they have to blow in the bulldozers and the cops and act like they're doing, good work. Mayor Fry, I'm not a resident of the city of Minneapolis. I'm not. Hence, I've not really chimed in too much on how you're perceived. But dude, you are doing so much wrong on this. It's not funny. And it'd be one thing to say, hey, we're going to have this one company build in this high-end complex, but I've got this other company that's going to get some grants and a tax break. God forbid we give a tax break to anyone but a freaking sports team in this town. And we're going to use that. We're going to give them tax breaks, and they're going to build lower income housing that's meant for people that can only afford $1,000 to $2,000 a month in rent. Maybe we should start doing that, but I don't see anything here outside of, well, we're just going to let them build, charge as much as they want, and on a theory pushed by the developers that the prices will eventually go down. This is me not holding my breath. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.
Now at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, the Morso wood stoves qualify for a 30% tax credit.
Morso wood stoves earned the Nordic Swan Eco Label, Europe's most rigorous environmental standard. Here in the U.S., these Morso wood stoves qualify for the 30% federal tax credit. This is a credit of up to $2,000 off your income tax when you install efficient wood heating. Morso wood stoves are known for elegant Danish design. Made of quality cast iron, this is furniture that radiates heat and warmth. Morso brings the tradition of wood heating into the 21st century.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has been selling wood-burning products since 1977. Morso is an important part of our diverse selection of fireplace products. We want to make fire work for you. Let us show you how Morso wood-burning stoves can work in your home.
Get in touch with the folks at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. They are the chimney and installation experts. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood, gas, and electric units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis.
Holiday shopping is easy with the Park Tavern. From now until December 31st, stop into the Park Tavern and buy a $100 gift card. You'll receive a $25 Park Tavern gift card for free. You heard that right. Buy a $100 Park Tavern gift card. You'll receive a $25 gift card for free. The best part is you get to decide which gift card you keep and which gift card you give. The Park Tavern is open regular hours throughout the holiday season, offering great food and family fun. On Louisiana Avenue, north of Highway 7 in St. Louis Park, the holidays are just better with the Park Tavern.
Seward Co-op is now offering convenient self-serve and prepackaged hot options and salad bars at both the Franklin and Friendship stores. Breakfast items available daily until 11 a.m. and brunch served all day every Sunday. Their weekly lunch and dinner menus highlight cuisines from around the world. They offer vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free options daily. 95% of the ingredients used are organic from small-scale, local community food producers whenever possible. More at seward.coop.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. Final thing today, I wanted to chime in a little bit on the new enforcement of fares on the bus, or the Metro Transit, on the trains. And by the way, there was someone made a post today that said the fare enforcers got on the train with a police officer, and they said, here's the deal. We're going to check everyone's fare. If you don't have a ticket, you can get off right now. We're not going to get you. And apparently like 7 people got off the train and did not get a ticket. So I thought that was a pretty nice deal, but I have no problem with them enforcing this. And for this reason, okay, I don't look at fare enforcement as harassing, as a crime control issue. I don't look at it as harassing homeless people. I don't look at it as regards to, tolerating drug use on this. I don't look at it as or stigmatizing drug use in the case. I look at it as the entire concept of the light rail line was passed that part of their funds would be paid for via fares. And if you've got a situation where the fares aren't being enforced and people are not buying tickets, well, that's not going to work. That was the entire idea, is that people will pay to ride the trains, and that will cover some of the expenses, some of the paychecks, some of the maintenance. That's the concept. And a lot of people do. I mean, most people do pay the fares. But it's this kind of slashback. I've seen this element of, oh, well, Matt, now that we're here, it should be free. Okay, first of all, I want to make sure you understand something. If you do this, if you try to do an end around and turn all the mass transit free, you're never going to see more mass transit built. It will immediately, even the moderate Democrats will get off board on this, because you're trying to do an end around on the backside of this. You're trying to basically say, oh, we're going to make this a societal change, that even though that when we approved this, we made part of this was that people would pay fares to get on this, we're going to make it free. And no, you're never going to build it. And I've already gone around with a few people who have made the idea. It's like, well, but so what's the big deal? So that we have, should we really be, tormenting people who are homeless who are just trying to warm up on the train, or, if a person's addicted to drugs and they're just trying to, get a place. Okay. No, that's not a good use of the freaking train. And no, you shouldn't just allow people to ride back and forth all day long in a train without paying, because it makes you, it's one way to deal with it. I think I'm going to be blunt. I think it'd be far more cost effective to just say, we want to pay for a bunch of buses that will be buses for when it's cold, for homeless people to get on the bus, and we'll just drive around the city and they can stay in the bus. It will be far more cost effective to do something like that than to basically turn over the entire light rail system over to basically as a homeless shelter for the day. I mean, it's a complete way. There's a lot of money that's been put into the light rail lines. It's not meant and designed to be a homeless and respite area for the entire day. It's just not. So, I mean, if you want to do something like this, well, I mean, I would suggest finding someone that would give you some buses and allow people that if they want to, be homeless and they're looking for a respite. I'm presuming you're not saying you want to drive buses around so people can just go and use drugs on the buses, in a safe and secure environment. Maybe you are. Homelessness, like I said in the last segment, this is a housing issue. But we shouldn't, because we want to give ourselves some sort of gold star check mark, going out there and say, well, even though this is not designed for a daytime homeless respite area, we should make it so much. The regular commuters won't mind. Now, the regular commuters won't be there. As you've seen, if things get out of control on these trains, there's a tendency of people not wanting to get on the trains. And then it's only a matter of time before the whole system is shut down. And that's part of the problem. And we're back to square one. So I'm not saying homelessness is not a problem, but once again, the entire concept of the light rail line was to build it, and people would pay fares, and that would offset its cost. I don't have any problem with people going on there and making sure people have paid for tickets. I have zero problem. Native Roots Radio is up next. Have a good one. We're back tomorrow. Till then, see ya.
We served our country like those before us.
It was a dangerous